It was a shock, but I think we did predict that it was going to happen. I think we felt deep down it was going to happen. But it was still a shock. And I remember receiving a text from my son who lives in Canada and just saying, Dad, I can't believe, there's war in Europe. And it was a very sad and a very stressful day because everybody's mind was then working. How was this going to sort of open up? How long was it going to last? Were Ukraine, as Russia predicted, just going to fall to the side and surrender, which they obviously didn't, because President Putin's generals promised him within 3 days they would be in Kiev, and they would be placing a new government in place in the capital of Ukraine. So it was a very traumatic time, and the mind was rushing with all sorts of different thoughts. And we were all rushing around from Zoom meetings to Zoom meetings, basically, because we were also coordinating with our colleagues right across our Ukrainian colleagues across the world of how to react as a Ukrainian diaspora throughout the world.
Okay, and just tell us a little bit about how your organization, the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain, how you initially helped in this sort of immediate aftermath, and also how you've continued that help for 12 months.
I think it was like you might say, we all signed up immediately to help, and in fact, we put plans into place prior to the invasion, a few weeks prior to the invasion, because we just wanted to be ready in case the invasion did happen. We all prayed before that it wouldn't happen, but sadly it did. So we started a Ukraine Appeal Fund, which raised about £3.5 million, which was sent direct to Ukraine for humanitarian aid to Red Cross Ukraine, to Caritas, and to AICM. So, because they were on the ground and could get into areas where it was most needed. Our network of 31 branches also, got themselves organized, and they were sending lorries and wagons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine as well, or to Poland, because many people were fleeing from Ukraine into Poland, as we saw on the television, the masses of people that were crossing the border. So we were literally 24/7 trying to help Ukraine at that point, and doing everything we can. And we're just grateful that Western governments, especially the UK, responded immediately as well. To help Ukraine, and weren't going to leave them out to dry, basically.
And yes, just on that point, how do you feel about the help that's been offered by the UK government and other governments around the world? And do you think more is now needed?
I think there's no words to sort of describe how grateful we all are to the UK government, and more so to the UK people, who just openly supported Ukraine with donations, with both monetary donations and physical donations. So from that perspective, the UK has responded tremendously, and we still stand by the point that the UK responded first to everybody else. I think it does need, and I feel President Zelensky's speech in Parliament just the other week reiterated that point, that it just needs that bit more if we're going to succeed, and we must succeed in this victory, which is not just for Ukraine. This is a victory for freedom and democracy throughout the world.
And how do you feel about the situation in Ukraine now, after 1 year of this invasion? Obviously, as you said, the Russians expected it to go very differently to how it has gone. How do you feel about how the Ukrainian armed forces have managed to keep the Russians at bay and also win back some territory? How do you, and also the Ukrainian civilians, how they've responded to an awful year, but they're still resisting.
It's been amazing. The heroism and the bravery of Ukrainian people has always been there, and it's a perfect example of how a country reacts when a foreign force tries to invade and take over it. They will not capitulate at all. They never will. Quoting the words of the Ukrainian national anthem, we will lay down our soul and our body for our freedom. And many Ukrainians have. And how do I feel personally? I feel no different to the day the invasion started. I still feel bitter. I still can't believe this has actually happened, really. It's still traumatic today because we're still seeing civilians, children, old people just totally, being bombed and killed for no reason. These are civilian people. We talk about war, but this is just a massive onslaught onto the civilian population. It's not targeted onto military bases or onto other sort of key buildings or anything. This is just targeting civilians who are innocent.
And just looking ahead then to the future, how do you see the next few months and the next year or two panning out, really, in Ukraine?
Well, ideally, we'd like to see an end to the conflict, to this war, as soon as possible. But I think realistically, we understand that that's not going to be in the short term, and we could sadly be reflecting a second anniversary next year. Hopefully not. We have to stay positive. We're 100% positive that victory will come to Ukraine, and victory will come to those who believe in democracy and freedom. If we start to plant the seed of doubt, we will fail, and that we cannot do. So we are 100% positive Ukraine will win this, because, as they say, good always triumphs over evil.